you see with a lot of activity in marketing is what your crowd response is going to be. And so what we did is we did launch a company. We focused on that company for 7 hours, and we got front page ranking using social media. And it's possible for all of you that have marketing campaigns that need visibility. Social media is a critical component of that. The purpose behind that was to show you that with free tools and no money, you can get visibility. You can get ranking. It's something that you have to consistently maintain a pulse on to keep that ranking up. But we launched the site in Joomla with some basic keywords and some basic content. We were able to get ranking for the site. Given the hectic schedule, we could have done a lot more. And I expect to have, by the conclusion of today, some additional statistics around that website. But as you go out and you plan your next series of marketing campaigns, one of the things that I've done is I've used a technology that I think is very fantastic. To me, it is the one-on-one of launching a website. And that technology is HubSpot. You put in a URL, you put in a series of keywords, and it basically generates a website overview and a recipe for doing the first layer or the first level of search engine optimization. It gives you a prescriptive approach to doing exactly what's necessary just to get ranking, just to get your site visible or more visible. And that's the purpose of this conference. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Mike Volpe of HubSpot, and he's going to talk to you more about their technology in the future. Mike?
Morning, everyone. I think I need to pay Chris for that pitch because it was talking more about HubSpot than I was ever going to talk about, actually. So there you go. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So I was talking yesterday to someone out actually at the happy hour, and she mentioned to me, I was asking, oh, where are you from? What do you do? Questions like that. And she said, oh, I'm from up north. I was like, oh, you don't really sound like you're from up north. And she said, well, yeah, I'm from Georgetown. It's about half an hour north of you. And I said, okay, well, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I consider that to be up north. And so one of the things I'm going to try to be conscious of today is that as a Bostonian, I'm pronouncing all of my R's, right? I'm speaking maybe a little bit more slowly than I normally would. So it's not going to be Pakakad, Havagad, but it's going to be, I'm going to park my car at Harvard Yard, right? So hopefully tuning in a little bit to sort of the local flavor down here in Austin, which has been a great town, a great experience so far. All right, so I'm going to talk about three basic things. I'm going to talk about inbound marketing synergies. I'm going to talk a little bit about what inbound marketing is, and how everything you're learning today and yesterday at this great event is about inbound marketing and how to think about marketing in a new way. And then I'm also going to talk about some implementation examples and some case studies of what this stuff is. So I'm going to try to get a little bit into the details of how to do some of the things that I'm talking about. All right, how many people in the audience consider themselves either a small business owner or a marketer? Your job is to get more people into your business, get more people to hear about your company. Great. How many people have done direct mail to support their business? Okay, about 40% maybe. How many people have done print advertisements of some kind? Maybe yellow pages ads or ads in a magazine? Great, probably 60%, 70%. What about telemarketing? People either hire an outsourced telemarketing firm or get a list of companies and call. Okay, not quite as much telemarketing, maybe 20% or so. All right. This is the stuff that marketers have traditionally done, right? So trade shows and events, telemarketing, direct mail, cold calling, all sorts of things like that. And what's interesting about these things is that they can all be very, very effective marketing techniques, but there's a lot of trends working against them. So how many people have caller ID on their phone? Right? How many people use that caller ID to screen out those annoying calls from salespeople that are trying to sell you something? Okay, almost everybody. How many people have a spam blocker on their email? legislation, you know, you can think that everyone in Texas or in Austin is not sure what the reaction's going to be, but if George W. Bush up there. But even he thinks that telemarketing calls are annoying and intrusive. Okay, so you got to give credit for doing something. All right, but you've got a lot of technologies here that people can use to block out marketing. And the reason that people are doing all this stuff is that they no longer need their marketing information. There's so many resources out there for people to be able to gain information, learn about your company and your products and services, and information that they actually enjoy more than anything that you're going to send them or you're going to publish to them. So I would much rather hear about someone else's experience with a product or a service than I would to hear what the vendor has to say about it. Right? It's more viable, it's more honest, it's more trustworthy information. So the big question today is, as a marketer or as a business owner, when you're trying to grow your business, what can you do to leverage what's going on in the marketplace today to take advantage of all of these, all these trends and all these changes in order to market your business more effectively? And so I really think that you need to kind of rethink marketing from this more traditional kind of outbound methodology of marketing where you're throwing a bunch of things out in the marketplace and hoping to get that 1, 2, maybe 3% response rate. And all those techniques, the reason why the response rate's so low is it's very interruption-based. You're relying on people being willing to be distracted by you during their daily tasks. Someone's at their desk doing some work, and one of your salespeople cold calls them. You're interrupting them, right? And you're trying to tell them that whatever they're doing in front of their computer and trying to do some work and get it done and get something done for their boss, that's less important than talking to your sales guy at that point in time, right? I don't think that people think that way, right? So what you need to think about doing is more like an inbound marketing strategy. So what are the things that you can do to leverage how people are actually looking for products and services today? So you can get found by them, and you can sort of work your way into sort of the sales process that they have, the purchasing process that they want to go through. And so things like SEO and SEM, right? That's why this is such a great event and such an important and timely event. Things like using blogging, things like using social media, publishing with RSS feeds, free tools and trials, viral marketing, viral videos, all those sorts of things, because they're much more permission-based. And all of those things act much more like a magnet to draw people into your business, rather than you reaching out, trying to distract them and annoy them and sort of try to get them to pay attention to you when they really don't want to. So these types of techniques, the things that you're learning about at this event over these 2 days, there's really a couple benefits. One is that the response is usually higher, and the cost per lead, the cost per customer is usually lower. And there's the second reason, the response rate's higher because people actually want to respond to these things, because you're reaching out to them in the way that they want you to reach out to them. The second thing is the people that respond to these are usually much more interested in what you have to sell or what you're offering. So they actually, from the lead stage, usually close into customers at a much higher rate as well. So your salespeople like these leads. These are the people that they call them up and they're like, wow, this guy actually took my call and he wanted to talk to me. Of course he did. He spent the last 2 days looking around at Facebook and Google for something that fits this need. Like that's the best kind of lead or best kind of customer you can go after. So moving on from sort of the inbound marketing and sort of why all this stuff is really important, sort of the shift in marketing that's happening today, to how you sort of implement some of these strategies. And there's been a whole bunch of great presentations yesterday, and there's a whole bunch more later today about a lot of things in and around these topics. But I like to divide the world sort of into the inbound marketing world in sort of 3 major segments. One is around blogging, or kind of broadly defined as kind of content creation. One is around search engine optimization, and maybe called search engine marketing to some degree, and pay-per-click and things like that in that box as well. And then the other's around social media. But I think what people sometimes forget is that it's super important to use all 3 of these together. There's a lot of synergies among these 3 techniques. And this really is a case where 1 + 1 + 1 equals 5, 6, or 7. Almost a huge number, great. How many are blogging or publishing new, fresh content on a regular basis? So maybe videos, podcasts, okay, so fewer people. And how many people are really aggressively using social media to market their business? I don't mean I just have a LinkedIn profile. I mean, I actually am using social media to market my business. Okay, very small number, okay. That's kind of what I expected. That's kind of the trend you see in a lot of places. Everyone's sort of doing something with SEO. Some people are doing something with blogging or content publishing, and very few people that are doing social media. So one of the things I want to talk about today is how if you use be successful with social media, you need to have fans or friends of your company or yourself, and you also need to have good content. Because if you're just out there on social media and all you have is, hi, I'm Mike, and you're not publishing blog articles or saying something interesting or links to other blog articles or something like that, no one's going to care about the content that you're publishing and promoting through social media sites. And then the final piece is around blogging or content generation. To be successful there, after you're publishing this content, you need other people to link to it, and you need subscribers or fans of your blog or your channel on YouTube or whatever you're doing in terms of publishing content. And what's interesting, if you look at the success factors for each of these, so the success factor for SEO, one of the major ones is content. Well, guess what? If you have a blog, you're all of a sudden publishing a lot more fresh content. So that's going to make your SEO program a lot more effective. A ton more effective. Blogs are also a natural magnet for inbound links. That's also going to help make your SEO program more effective. If you're in social media, so I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I can now publish links in those social networks to blog articles that I write or other people at my company write. And what people appreciate about that is, oh wow, I'm glad I'm friends with Mike because he sends me all this useful, interesting information. And so having that content, from blogging or content makes my social media strategy more effective. Having those friends in social media help me drive the success of my blog. Because now all those people, all my friends in Facebook, are going to my blog, they're linking to it, they're bookmarking it, delicious, doing things like that. So it helps, all these things work together to help make it more effective. And all that feeds together into sort of very exponential effects. So just doing SEO alone, just doing all the tweaks to your own site is definitely a necessary step, and you should do it. You should update that metadata and make sure each page is a unique page title and all sort of the basic things like that. But that alone isn't going to really propel your businesses to huge and giant results. What you need to think about is, once you have that blog and you're starting to write some fresh content, then make sure it's optimized. Do a link building strategy. And then think about how you can use all of that content and your results in terms of SEO for some effect within social media as well. And sort of all those things start to add up and have more and more results. So let's talk about a couple of implementation examples. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the day in the life of what's Mike do? Because a lot of people say, okay, well, I read the HubSpot blog, I'm friends with you on Facebook, but what do you do every day? What do you do? So I usually wake up in the morning, and I've got a bunch of RSS feeds that feed into my Google Reader, and I check that, I check Facebook, I check Twitter. And I just kind of see what's going on. And then typically, I'll leave a few comments on articles where I have something interesting to say, and those comments I'll link back to our blog at HubSpot. And so that's, people that are reading those other blogs can now discover our blog. And then maybe I'll add a couple new friends. Maybe I got a couple invites last night, or maybe I can find a couple authors of those blogs that I was reading that are interesting people that I want to connect with, so maybe I'll try to connect with them on Twitter or Facebook or something like that. Then right after that, I usually write a new blog article. We usually publish a blog article. We try to do one every business day. And once I publish that blog article, then I'll publish that link on Twitter and Facebook. And I'll tell all my friends, hey, publish a new blog article, let me know if you have a comment. Agree with me, disagree with me, I don't care, just let me know. What do you think? And sometimes, sometimes people love it, and you get tons of comments. Sometimes people hate it and think it's lame, but that's cool too, because I'm doing this almost every day, it's great. Then in the afternoon, usually I'll sort of check around again, and I'll be monitoring what people are saying about my company and my products and my brands over the course of the day. And if someone says something interesting, or a blogger with any sort of reach says something that's interesting or complimentary about our company, or about our products, or our executives, or something like that, I'll then take that content, even though it's someone else's content, I'll start to promote it, because it says something good about me. And in some ways, that's more effective. Having someone else say something good about you is better than you saying something good about yourself. So I'll promote that content, and I'll promote it in a whole bunch of different ways depending on the content, right? So Stumble Upon. I don't think there's been a lot of talk about Stumble Upon, but I will tell you that Stumble Upon is one of the easiest ways to get kind of a quick sort of 50 visitors to your website. So join that. It's an interesting social network around discovering new content on the web. So I highly recommend that. If it's a really good article, maybe we'll post it on Dig and get a few people to vote for it, some of our friends to vote for it. I'll also post that on Facebook and Twitter to get my friends on Facebook and Twitter to see, hey, Guy Kawasaki said something cool about HubSpot, or whoever it might be. And then I'll email friends and employees. So I'll even use the old social network of emailing, right? In my Outlook inbox or my Outlook address contacts. to get people to sort of promote things that way as well. And then at the end of the day, usually I'll just sort of check my SEO results, maybe do a little tweaking, things like that, and maybe start to work on the blog article the next day. And in between, there are meetings and sort of all the other sort of business stuff you do. So it's only a couple hours a day that I'm working on this type of stuff. It's not like we sit there all the time and have a huge group of employees. Marketing team at HubSpot is very, very small. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about this, but basically it comes down to three things. So it's publishing content, it's monitoring what people are saying about you, and then it's promoting that content or what other people are saying about you, so it's sort of promoting those things. So I talked a little bit about publishing. I really think every company should have a blog or some way that they're publishing unique content. So I was talking to someone yesterday, and she told me, I hate to write. And I said, well, your website only has 14 pages. You need more content to be effective in terms of online marketing, internet marketing, and inbound marketing. And she said, well, I really, really hate to write. I hate to write. She really hated writing. And I talked a little bit to her about what her company does and things like that. Well, her company actually does voiceovers. So I'm like, okay, well, you probably have a recording studio. She said, oh yeah, we have like 40 recording studios with all this talent, whatever. That's what we do. We produce audio. Well, what about a podcast, right? Produce new and interesting content that's relevant to your business. It doesn't necessarily have to be a blog. I sort of use that concept generally. But whatever you can do to publish new content for your business on a regular basis is very much going to help you. Once you're publishing that content, you want to monitor what's going on. So this first tool, this is Google Blog Search. How many people use Google Blog Search on a regular basis? Not too many, okay. This is a great way to monitor what's being said about you in the blogosphere. So what are all those millions of bloggers saying about your company, your brand, your competitors, things like that? And if you look here, I'm doing a search right here for HubSpot, so our company name, and I'm doing minus site in our domain. What it's doing is it's taking out everything from our own website from these results. So this is not going to show me new blog articles that I publish, because I know I published them, right? I don't need to monitor those. But it is going to tell me things other people are saying about me and my company and whatever I put in here for the search. And this is a great, great way. And I'll just point out for now that on the left-hand side here, you can actually subscribe to this in RSS. We're going to come back to that in a minute. So I highly recommend everybody, this is really simple, it'll take you 2 minutes to do. Go to Google Blog Search, set it up for your company, maybe your executives, your brand names, whatever you want. Remove your own company's domain from the results. This is going to give you a good sense of what's going on in the blogosphere. Totally free tool. The second thing you should think about doing is finding the places where people in your industry that you serve share content online. So HubSpot sells to internet marketers, marketing professionals, and some segment of that population, especially the more technical, more internet-centric ones, do hang on sites like Dig. So Dig is a very popular social news site, and people share news here. What I want to know on this site is what of my content are people publishing and promoting on this site. So if I write a blog article and one of our readers puts it on Dig and people start to vote for it, I want to know that. Because if it starts to move up in the rankings, it starts to get closer to the Dig homepage, more and more people are going to see that article. So that's actually something I want to push and help that person promote. Even though most of the time I don't actually know the person personally who put it on Dig, I still want to send other people to that page and move it up. So here I'm doing a search for HubSpot.com. This is finding anything on our domain that's been published on Dig. And that makes it very easy to monitor this and roll it up with other things as well. So there's a whole bunch of social sites. I've got a few logos later in the presentation, but any site like this, find the ones that are relevant for your industry and make sure you're monitoring what's going on with those. And RSS can be a great tool. We're going to talk about that in a minute. All right, monitoring discussions. I don't think there's a ton of Twitter users here. How many people are using Twitter? Okay, actually a decent number. So I'm MLB. If you want to connect with me, go for it. This is a tool called Surmise, which as of yesterday, I think, is actually now Twitter search. So Twitter actually bought Surmise, so I apologize I didn't have time to update the slides last night. But if you go to Surmise, it redirects you to search.twitter.com. What this does, this is really cool. There are millions of Twitter users, and they're producing tons and tons of content. Twitter's really meant to be very compatible with SMS text messaging. So everything's 140 characters or less. So it's oodles of messages in very, very short format. But what's really cool about Twitter is it's very, very easy to search because they're a very broad and open API. So what you can do here, and I have this running just for HubSpot. So this was a couple of days ago, who had said something about HubSpot on Twitter. And this goes on for, a few pages. What's interesting is that the only person on this page that is actually a HubSpot employee, supporter, advisor, or anything like that is that guy, Pete Halligan, who's the first one, and he's also the fourth one. That's our CEO. The rest of this is other people. So actually the third guy I do know because he just became a HubSpot customer. But like the second one, I actually don't even know who that is, right? But they're saying something interesting about HubSpot. So I want to know when that stuff is going on. If it's something bad, I want to respond to it and ask you questions about what can we do to improve your experience. If it's something good, maybe I want to connect with them. Maybe I want to save that link. So Robert Scoble said something really good about HubSpot a few months ago. That's one of my favorite tweets. And sometimes I'll send people out a link to that and be like, hey, check out what Robert Scoble thinks about HubSpot. All right, we talked a lot about RSS. And by the way, that Surmise feed or that now Twitter search feed also gets published as RSS. So what's really cool about this is it's not like I spend my entire morning going around to like 45 different websites and doing all these searches on HubSpot. I've set all this stuff up once, and then I just open my Google Reader, and I've got a little folder that says like HubSpot monitoring. I just click on that. And then it shows me just the new stuff that's happened and all these things that I roll up. And I roll up more than this, but something like this will start to get you started in terms of monitoring what's going on with your company online. I'm going to pause here for a second. Any questions about publishing and monitoring? So I'm going to start to get into some of the case studies and some of the other information. Does this all making sense to folks? All right, and let me ask this, sort of the question that Chris was getting to earlier. Is this, how many people think this is too easy, too rudimentary? Okay. How many, too advanced for some people? Wow, okay. All right, you guys are just afraid to give me negative feedback, I think. All right, so promoting your own content. So let's talk about some examples of this, right? So this is a new article. I published this one actually a while ago. It's about how to think about the URL for your business blog. So you guys are about to launch a blog, or if you have a blog on one of the free URL services, I encourage you to read this article. But what we do with an article typically like this is we think about, okay, well, what are the right places to promote this article? And then we promote it in all those places. Because a website or a blog with no one following it and no links into it is like one hand clapping in the forest. It's like, it's just, something's happening, but nobody's paying attention, nobody cares, it doesn't draw any attention, right? So you want to think about how to promote every piece of content that you publish through as many means as possible. So in this case, it's a blog article. So I've got a few followers on Twitter, so I'll put something like, hey, new blog article, check out what you should think about your URL, and then I'll post a little link to the blog article. On StumbleUpon, so I've got some followers on StumbleUpon, some other people in the company do as well, and we'll give it a thumbs up on StumbleUpon, which basically means it's content that you like, and then other people start to see that, and they either give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The more people that give it a thumbs up, the more people it's going to get displayed to. Delicious. Delicious is a social bookmarking service. So if it's a really good article, maybe we'll bookmark it on Delicious. Maybe we'll even find other people on Delicious that have bookmarked other HubSpot articles. And maybe we'll use a way in Delicious to save that bookmark for someone else. And maybe we'll save it for a few of them and see if they might get interested in it. If it's a really, really good article, maybe we'll put it on Dig, or maybe someone else puts it on Dig. We'll start to vote for it ourselves and email a few people. Reddit is similar to Dig, a little different audience, so definitely depending on the type of content in the article, maybe we'll use Reddit. Same thing with Mix, it's very similar to those two. And then Facebook. I've actually got an automatic feed from my blog that posts into my profile on Facebook. So if you're one of my friends on Facebook, every time we post a new blog article, you get a little note in your feed that, like, Mike has posted a new note, and it gives you the title of the article and a link to it. So it's a great way to just take that content and get a lot more out of it than just publishing it only to your own blog. And a lot of this happens automatically through RSS. Some of it's a little bit manual, but it's pretty fast. It's pretty easy. All right, so that was a blog article. What about if it was a video? So this is a video we have on YouTube. Well, some of the same places apply, but maybe it's some different places that I want to think about promoting that content. So I would definitely use Twitter to promote it to my friends on Twitter. StumbleUpon has a videos feature as well, so you can get videos in addition to web pages, thumbs up or thumbs down. So I would promote this on StumbleUpon. YouTube, obviously, we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/HubSpot. You definitely want to post new things there. Flickr, so maybe, so Flickr now does some videos of shorter lengths if you're a pro member. But you could also take still screenshots from the video and post those on Flickr. So your company should have a Flickr profile. Think about what photo content or what image content, and maybe some shorter videos you might want to post on Flickr as well. Reverb, LibTV, there's a million places to post videos. If you have a video, try to distribute it as broadly as you can. And then Facebook, again, Facebook is kind of the very broad in terms of their acceptance of all sorts of types of multimedia. So you can post videos to Facebook, you can post links to it, there's lots of different ways to do it, but definitely promote it to all your friends on Facebook. If your company has a page on Facebook, if you don't, you should have a page on Facebook because it's free, it's cheap, it's easy. If you Google Facebook business page, we have an article on, I think, the second or third result maybe about how to set up a Facebook business page. But if you have a video, you should post it on your Facebook business page too. The other way to think about content, and I referenced this earlier, is content is not necessarily things that only you write or you videotape or you produce. So think about content too as things that other people are saying about you that's flattering. So here's, an example where Guy Kawasaki said some really cool things about Website Grader, which is that free tool that we offer that Chris was talking about earlier. So what do we do with this? We could have just sat there and been like, wow, this is awesome. Like Guy Kawasaki wrote about HubSpot. Like, let's go get some margaritas. But we didn't do that, right? We said, okay, well, how do we get even more leverage out of this? And so again, we promoted that article. It had nothing to do, it had a lot to do with our specific website, and that page linked to us. But we were sort of sending traffic to Guy Kawasaki, but it was still beneficial to HubSpot, so we might as well do it. Plus, having someone else positively reference your company is obviously good for your reputation and things like that. So I sent it out on Twitter to all my friends. We voted it up on StumbleUpon, bookmarked it delicious. Tried to see if we could get it to move up to the first page of Gig. Promoted it on Facebook. All sorts of things like that and take that content in. Now let's talk about this from maybe a deeper perspective. So doing something like this helps build your reputation in social media because you're publishing and promoting content that is from other people than just your own blog. So it sort of makes you a good social media citizen. And people are like, oh, well, Guy Kawasaki, that's kind of cool. He's got some interesting stuff to say. He's a pretty popular blogger. The other thing it does in terms of your SEO strategy is don't forget SEO, a lot of it is about inbound links to your site. And it's about the power of those inbound links. So here's an article that I wrote and it linked to Website Grader. So that's great. So that's a good extra link into our site. But if there's anything that we can do to make this page more powerful online, which means more links into this page, that helps us because some of that power flows back to what he was linking to, which is one of our web pages, one of our free tools. So whatever we can do to make this page more powerful online and get Guy more links into his blog article about us, that actually does benefit us directly in terms of an SEO strategy. So you should think about how can you help him build links to this article because that's going to indirectly help you. You also want to send more visitors to this article because then you're going to get more clicks onto your website, more people reading about your company. Whatever you can do with other content online that's written about you is definitely a very beneficial thing through social media and all those sorts of things. All right, so I've got two quick case studies about some people that I think are using some of these techniques in an interesting way. And I've also got a little bit of feedback from them on sort of some things that maybe they can do better or some additional things that they can do. All right, how many people have seen a Will It Blend video? Oh, not too many. This is going to be great. Okay. Whenever you have some free time, go to willitblend.com. And what they is the company, they sell blenders. And they don't have a ton of retail distribution. They actually started as kind of a restaurant professional blender. So like when you go into like Starbucks or a bar to get a frozen margarita, they're making it usually using a BlendTech blender. So it's kind of commercial. And then now they had a retail line as well. Not a lot of distribution. They weren't, some smaller sales, kind of a smaller blender company in the commercial market, retail market, sorry. They decided one day, the way it started was one of the executives went out to like the shop where they were doing like testing of the blenders, and they saw two guys with the blender with the plastic part off, but the blade was on, and it's sitting there and it's on a vise. So it's down nice and hard, and they have a 2x4. And they were literally grinding the 2x4. And the executive said, whoa, hang on, not sure that's covered by our insurance, right, first of all. And the second thing he said was, that is so cool. Let's take a video of it and put it on YouTube. So they started blending things like iPhones. They got a few million views when the iPhone first came out because they took one and dropped it into a blender. And literally this thing comes out and it's a pile of dust. I don't mean there's like small people, it's dust. Dust. I got married last year, and so I recently purchased a diamond engagement ring. And it was dismaying to me that they actually ground up in a blender a pile of, now they didn't use real diamonds, but they used cubic zirconia. And I mean, not quite as hard as diamond, but those things are hard. They took a bowl of them and dumped them into a blender. It came out as dust. I mean, dust. So like, if I'm ever buying a blender again, I don't necessarily need that power, but like, how cool is that, right? The total cost of this campaign is like probably in the, I'm sure once they started to have some success, they probably bought better video equipment and things like that, but think about it, total cost is like maybe thousands of dollars, right? They do all the production in-house. They've got one guy who's like their webmaster who does some of the editing of videos and post stuff, but he also has another, he does other stuff for the business too. This is not like super high budget stuff. And the guy who does it, that's their, I think it's their CEO or president, it's one of the heads of the company. I mean, he is not the best personality ever. He stands there and he's like literally like kind of like very sort of, you know, just stoic. He says, the question is, will it blend? And he's kind of got that like squeaky voice, and he like dumps the stuff in and he puts it and he hits the button and he's like, I'm blending now. And like that's it. And then at the end he's like dumps it out and he's like, don't breathe those fumes, like with the iPod, right? And then it's like, all right, he's done. And that's it. This is not like some highly paid talent. This guy does it like once a week for like an hour, right? And this is one of the most hilarious videos online. They are awesome. They have dozens of them. It's great. So go check that out. And so they produce 74 videos, so it's not like thousands of videos. They've got 2 million YouTube channel views. So on their channel on YouTube, it's 2 million views. They also have the willitblend.com site, and they've gotten even more views there. So it's like kind of somewhere people say kind of between 5 and 10 million views of their videos. Okay, that's like Super Bowl ad territory, right? Except that the people that are finding this stuff aren't the ones that are waiting for the next part of the game. They're actually they're like searching this stuff out. Like all of you are going to go to willitblend.com because you want to see this stuff now, right? Very, very powerful. If you go to, in terms of SEO, how does this help them? They're on page 1 for Blend, okay? I mean, a tiny company, right? All of a sudden, with all of this inbound link power, all this great compelling content that they've been promoting, using social media like YouTube and other sites, they're on page 1 for Blend. They've got 55,000 inbound links to that Blend site. It's just gigantic. Within social media, they've got 83,000 people that subscribe to their channel on YouTube. So every time they post a new video, 83,000 people get updates and notified of it. There's over 500 groups on Facebook. 500 groups on Facebook having something to do with Will It Blend or the company, the executive, something like that. So this is not stuff that they didn't start all 500 of those, I guarantee you. This is like college kids being like, oh my God, like, you know, the Will It Blend, you know, Texas Tech edition or something like that. And they're doing stuff in their dorm room and coffee closet, whatever, right? It's just like people doing cool stuff on Facebook with this content. And they've had 5 of their videos or stories about them reach the front page of Dig. That is huge. Now, so what else could they do? So this is like the retrospective, so like what else could they do? So they could have some much better on-page SEO, which is interesting to me. Because usually that's where people start. Usually people start with all that technical stuff that actually doesn't have a huge effect. They're on page 1 for Blend, and they really haven't done a good job with their on-page SEO. So all their page titles, things like that, in my opinion, could be vastly improved. Tom Dixon, who's the name of the guy in the video, he doesn't have a Facebook profile. I tried to find him. Imagine how many friends he would have, right? He'd have 10,000 friends. And even if it's not really him in Facebook, I mean, you probably want to have him check it once in a while, whatever. But you could have, you know, a recent college grad kind of respond to some comments and things like that. Just how cool would that be for him to have a Facebook profile? And he could talk about stuff, maybe he could post some blooper videos or things when he messes up to that profile, things like that. Just another great way to connect with people. And it's, you know, basically free. They could also encourage others to create content. Now, there's some legal issues with this because they don't want the people to be like hurting themselves by like grinding up iPhones and doing weird stuff with the remains. But they could think about it. Maybe people could create content, and maybe they could have like a Will It Blend. They could have a series of things like in bars because they do a lot with frozen drinks, or maybe in coffee shops with frozen coffee drinks. So maybe there's something they could do that would remove the like blending very dangerous stuff, right? And get people to submit videos and which one's the coolest and things like that. Because now they've got millions of people, and definitely there's some people out there creating this stuff themselves, but they can encourage that a little bit more as long as they were careful about it. And that would be great, because that's even more, instead of 74 videos, maybe they'd have 7,400 videos created about this stuff. And they can also promote others' coverage of them. So I didn't see a whole lot of evidence that when other people were covering this and talking about it as a concept, that they were doing a lot to promote that. All right. Second case study, the final case study is Website Grader. So this is that free tool that Chris talked about. We launched this kind of because we were bored, actually. I think is the right answer. Don't quote me on that because it sounds bad. But basically, our 2 co-founders were doing a lot of manual work to kind of investigate a bunch of websites. And they'd go to a new website and try to figure out if they were a good HubSpot customer or not. This is when we were first starting the business. And they go to like 10 different websites, and they try to get some information about if that was a good website or not. So they'd go to find the Alexa rank, they'd find the number of inbound links from the Site Explorer, and all these different things. They'd produce a little thing in Excel, and then they were scoring like, you know, 50 websites at a time to sort of figure out within different vertical markets what make sense, what might not. Well, one of our co-founders has some great technical skills, and he built this thing, Website Grader, and he had it just running on his desktop and go out and sort of do all this stuff and sort of automate that manual work. And Brian Darmesh, the two HubSpot co-founders, said, well, maybe we should just put this up on a website. Maybe somebody will like it. Maybe that'll be cool. So Darmesh, one weekend when his wife was out of town, spent the weekend, go do some stuff, make it a little bit more robust, and just threw it up on a website. And it was like the ugliest template you've ever seen. It's like the ugliest website you've ever seen. It had like a kind of a blue, ugly Website Grader logo, had a little box, it had some weird looking navigation. It was just like not cool looking at all. But there was a box and it had a little go button. And all of a sudden, like a few people found it, a couple people linked to it, and people started to put their websites in and click go, and they got this cool report. And then they'd like post a link to the report and kind of blog about it, maybe tell some friends. And then a few more people would find it. And then in the past, so we launched it in February of '07. Since then, and actually this is a little out of date, 380,000 people have used this to grade their website. And we have spent less than $5,000 promoting it. So when you create cool and interesting content, and this is on page one for things like SEO score, website SEO, etc. When you create 34,000 inbound links, it's done pretty well within social media. So when you create cool and interesting content, you sort of do some things around promoting it to some bloggers, promoting it within social media, things like that. You can promote things at a very low cost if the content's interesting. Now there's a whole bunch of other things that we should do with Website Grader that we haven't done. So you saw earlier when Guy Kawasaki wrote about it, we promoted that article, right? But we don't have really a good presence on Facebook for Website Grader. We have a very good presence, I think, for HubSpot on Facebook, but not everyone necessarily connects Website Grader with HubSpot, so maybe we should do more there. We also should allow people to do more of their own publishing. So just like Will It Blend should have more people publishing videos themselves, then go from 74 to 7,400 maybe. We should allow more people somehow to embed Website Grader in their websites or have a badge that links to it or something like that. That would be a really, really cool thing to do that we're not doing. Maybe there should be some sort of contest. So if any of you guys have cool ideas about contests that we could do with Website Grader, that would be really, really cool. So definitely come see me afterwards. That would be neat. So I wanted to just sort of summarize and talk about some of the free tools of the trade that I've mentioned here. And so Google Alerts and Google Blog Search are definitely two free, very valuable tools. Surmise, which is now Twitter Search, free, valuable tool. I talked about that earlier. Facebook, I think everyone's heard of. If you don't have a profile on there, if you start to do it and play around, I guarantee there are people in your demographic on Facebook. So don't say I'm too old for Facebook. That's just not true anymore. Used to be true. Used to be very true. When I first got on Facebook, I kind of snuck in with like an alumni email address. So it seemed like I was affiliated with the school, and I wasn't at the time. But now there's a much more older people on Facebook, so that's good. Twitter, definitely free tool, very cool. StumbleUpon, I mentioned a couple times, and Website Grader is another great free tool. So if you want to download these slides, you can go to slideshare.net/HubSpot. If you want to connect with me in any way, highly encourage it. There's all my information. There's a bunch of handouts around the room that has this info as well. And so thanks a lot. I appreciate your time. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to connect with me later, I'm going to be hanging out up front and we'll do one-on-ones all day long. So thanks. Yeah, so I'm kind of a B2B marketer, and honestly for MySpace, not necessarily a useful place to be for B2B, but absolutely, if you're B2C, especially if you're going after a younger audience, MySpace is kind of very demographically targeted, but if you're going after that audience, absolutely. It's definitely something you should do, and there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, more sites like that I didn't mention, right? So there's things specifically for developers, there's things specifically for artists, so there's a woman here from a company called ArtID, so they have a social network for artists, like there's all sorts of things going on, and absolutely, you need to find those for your specific company, so definitely, all that stuff is really good.
If I don't know what your experience has been, but we've tried SEMforSMB marketing with MySpace. It's kind of like walking down to Austin Cemetery. I mean, you're going to get about the same amount of return through MySpace. I think. I mean, if you're a band or some kind of a special event promoter, great. But frankly, MySpace is a dead medium.
Yeah, I think music, bands, bars, nightlife stuff is good on MySpace, but otherwise, I agree. Yep.
Please.
All right, so the question is about friend feed. Yeah, friend feed is pretty cool. I didn't cover it, because to be honest, I don't feel like I'm quite an expert yet on it, but I do use it. I have friend feed. So for those of you who don't know what friend feed is, you can go to the site, friendfeed.com, and it helps you basically aggregate a lot of the things that you're doing online into sort of a simple feed. So things like Twitter, Facebook status, and all that sort of stuff, and then you can publish that different places. So definitely something to play around with.
It's what Friendster should have been.
Yeah, that's probably right, yeah.
Yes, in the back.
You were talking about the will and blend and what they could do differently. The first thing you said was better on-page SEO when they were on the top of the page. What do you mean by on-page?
Okay. So, and then maybe the first one, the question about will it blend, I thought it could be better on-page SEO. I like to divide the SEO world into two factors, on-page SEO and off-page SEO. On-page is stuff that's happening on your website that you completely control.
Title
So it's
tags, things like that.
title tags, metadata, page title, and even the content of the page.
URLs.
Yep, absolutely. All that stuff that's within that page. And then the off-page stuff is how many people are linking to and how powerful those links are. So the stuff that's on page is super easy to change. That's like email the webmaster or do it yourself and like you're done. And I felt like, frankly, mostly it was their page titles. Not very good. I think they could have better keywords in there. Like they didn't have the word blender, right? You'd think that maybe the word blender might be an important word for them. So it's the little things like that.
Other thoughts? Yes.
Mike, I was thinking on your what could you add, maybe something like testimonials, people who have taken Website Grader and then took the report, because Ellie did a great job on mine, and what have you done with it, and how you're showing up, and how's it made a difference?
Cool. I like it. So maybe like YouTube video, yeah. This is testimonials. That could be cool.
So that brings up a good point. Front page subscription, front page prescription. We've talked a lot about different semantic webs and SEO and optimization. I'd like to give you my secret, what I tell all my firms to do on their front pages. It's pretty simple. Address, phone number, the boilerplate, which is essentially a 35-word sentence about what it is, to the point, exactly what you do, references and quotes, logos of your customers, and an RSS set of links to your news feeds. And if you don't have a press trail and if you've been in business for over a year, manufacture one. Every time you won a customer, every time you added a new product, go back and rewrite and just say, hey, all right, this is a year later, but build yourself a press release. It validates you. When people come to your website, they expect a physical address, they expect an RSS feed, they expect a boilerplate, they expect customer logos. Satisfy that initial expectation and that subconscious validation of your business before they click on any links. Some people talk about reducing mouse clicks. When they land on the pages that I help build for people, I want them to click 0 clicks. I want them to get in touch with a person so they get validated from the front page immediately. So it's not the approach for everybody, but it's certainly that prescription of having all those things that satisfy the subconscious web lander who hits that front page is important. All right. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks a lot.
All right. So we got, thank you. Thank you. We got quite a program for you today. So first, I'd like to call out a couple of individuals. The Stryax girls. Styrax. Thank you. Cheryl. All right, fantastic. Great blog post. Thank you. Clarita. Are you in the room? Another blog post. These are things that we took from the show. We're reading what you post about the show, the presenters, and so forth. There's already some live video from some of the sessions. We have a lot of video that will go into post-production over the next couple of days. So thank you for that. You want to mess with Google a little bit? I do. So remember our case study? San Antonio replacement windows? For those of you who have a blog post or a Twitter feed or whatever, post a link. Just say this is an interesting case study, San Antonio replacement windows. You don't have to participate, but let's go out there and throw some links, because this afternoon we're going to actually show you some reports on what we've accomplished over the past 18 hours in this website. A couple of sessions that you might want to attend today. The Drupal session, the Joomla session, they're all about building a website. And we talked about, what is that right formula for building a good website with RSS feeds and that sort of thing. Content management systems that move away from the concept of static pages will jumpstart you in that direction. You can have a website like we did yesterday, launched in 3 minutes. Johan Janssens did that, and you can have a website online with RSS feeds, quotes, customer testimonials in no time. So 2 great sessions. The Drupal sessions in the afternoon on SEO there. The link building session is going to be great. Yahoo Advertising Workshop, a must-see, and there's going to be some overlap for some. We're also going to repeat a session that we did yesterday at 1:30, which is the online analytics session. So that was hugely attended. I know there was some overlap, so we're going to repeat that session today at 1:30. Don't leave. The closing panel, we're going to talk about the results from the site that we launched yesterday. And if there's anything else, questions and thoughts before we go on? The workshop should be posted outside of the room. I believe it's in 410. Is the analytical session. Exactly what we're repeating yesterday. Perfect. There's coffee waiting for you outside. There's a great lunch. Let's have some fun and work. Thank you.
Just seen Christopher Justice give his talk. He's started the conference, and that was a great presentation by Mike Volpe with the VP Marketing of HubSpot. His Twitter address is twitter.com/mvolpe, and on LinkedIn he's Mike Volpe, and Facebook he's Mike Volpe, and their blog is at blog.hubspot.com. In a little while, I'm going to be doing a live streaming webcast of my talk with Connie Reese called Leveraging Social Media. I think you'll enjoy it. This is Paul Terry Wallace with Spring.net. Thank you.
You can get a lot more out of any of these individual techniques by using all three together. So I want to ask you a couple more questions. How many businesses are using either SEO or SEO?